wealth planning and so forth for your family or your future, oftentimes real estate kind of goes into that plan or is influenced by that plan. So hopefully tonight will be helpful for you guys, and Stephen is our trusted expert on all things. So my job tonight is easy. I just get to ask questions and Stephen gets to answer. Hi, I'm Emily Price with the Price Group at Keller Williams Realty Louisville East, and today I invite you to join me and my friend Stephen Gibson from Guidance Capital as we discuss all your questions as they pertain to financial planning and wealth building for your future. Everyone has kind of a different relationship and perception of when it comes to all things money and financial planning and so forth. So the way we want to start is give us some insight on, can you ever be too old or too young to kind of get your financial plan and path together?
Yeah, the way I'd answer that is do you ever stop spending money, right?
I don't.
Right, yeah. So whether you're right out of college or you're in college, we have clients that are in college and they want to start early. They understood from their parents or some elder that they need to save early. Time is on their side. As you get older, things might get a bit more clear as you get into your later years of life. It doesn't mean you stop spending money. Now you say, all right, I have different needs. Mm-hmm. I have healthcare needs. I have legacy needs, right? I want to pass some assets down and I want to pass a specific amount. I have charitable needs. And there's all different kinds of thought processes. There's all different kinds of analysis that can be done and ideas that can be done to accomplish that. So are you too old? No. There's always something. I tell people financial planning is a very large umbrella, right? And you break down under that umbrella, you have retirement planning. So someone that's 90 years old might not need a full-fledged retirement plan. That's kind of, it's done, lack of a better phrase. But then there's legacy planning and there's estate planning. So again, education planning. I mean, you just name it. And to kind of go to the real estate, we help clients all the time understand if the next house they purchase for a rental property is a good investment. Not from does it look pretty, but does it produce the cash on cash return? So again, you're never too young or never too old, because as long as there's math involved and money involved, there can be an analysis done.
So what about when people are kind of in a place where maybe they've had a plan, a financial plan to follow that they didn't really love, so they've gotten out of touch with it, or they've never had one, and in the back of their head they're kind of thinking, I feel like maybe that's something that I should put together for myself, but they don't even know where to start. Yeah. It just feels daunting and complex.
We've worked with a lot of people that don't even know what a financial plan is, that have a financial plan, it's just not comprehensive, and don't even know where to start, right? And usually the don't know where to start is either you're kind of shamed of like your position in life. I have too much debt and I just don't want to even address it. I don't know where to start, so I just break down altogether. Mm-hmm. And so those are the people we really want to help, right? Because of the fact that we believe every person needs a financial plan, and we're willing to give it to you because we believe that. And whether you have too much debt or you have, millions of dollars, those people still need help, maybe in different ways, but they still need help. And so it's really just walking out, putting yourself out there of, well, whatever my situation is, it's not too late. And I can get a financial plan and I can at least get on the right path. And we sit down with clients all the time. Well, every single time we meet with a client, mm-hmm. we're sitting down with them and updating their financial plan. Why? Because life changes. And so like you said, well, I haven't been in touch with my financial plan. It's a living thing. It's not a, hey, here's your financial plan. See you in 10 years. I hope it works out. Okay. It's a, let's make sure we continually update it so that it is accurate to today, not just 5 years ago when life was different.
What's the definition of a financial plan? What are we even talking about?
Yeah, I have a slide that I can pull up later, but a financial plan can be many things, right? When we talk financial plan, it goes back to that umbrella, right? Financial planning, financial plan. It consists of, we want to make sure you have a retirement analysis, right? Mm-hmm. We need to make sure you can retire. Or if you're in retirement and don't have a financial plan, that's fine too. We need to make sure that your assets are sustainable for the rest of your life, right? So there's this retirement type sustainability analysis.
Right.
And then you come to the estate planning. Inevitably, some of our job is morbid and everyone's going to pass away. It's just how hard or easy do you make it on your heirs, right? And so then we talk about estate planning. That's part of a financial plan. And then we have whether you're younger and have kids that are going to go to college, and we need to talk about education. We need to talk about rental properties because that is a part of people's portfolio if they want it to be, right? And so that's what we want to incorporate into this financial plan. If you own a business and you plan on selling it, that's part of your financial plan. So all of these pieces come together to give you a comprehensive financial plan. It's actually funny. I was talking with a lady years back, and I said, I always ask the question, can you go home and put your hands on a physical financial plan? Most people say no. She said, yes, I can. I said, great. When did you get it? Who gave it to you? And she said, well, they mail it to me every month. I said, no, that's a statement. And they're obligated to mail that to you. And so people are misunderstanding of what is a financial plan and then what is just, an investment.
Okay. That gives great clarity. Thank you for that. How can what you specialize in, the services that you provide, how can you help the person who might be in a position where where they're like, I have all this debt, whether it's school loans or life happened at any season in life, and because unpredictable things happen all the time. I have all of this debt and I really know I need to tackle this, but also I want to be proactive and get this financial plan in place, make positive movement in that direction too. So how does what you do and the services you provide solve for that all together?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's financial planning, right? But
I think there's a theme.
More specifically, it's when we have debt, we have to understand, okay, what's income, right? So we can dive as deep as someone wants us to get. Some people say, here's my credit card statements, my bank accounts, and here's everything. Look through it. Help me out, like understanding where I'm spending, where my spending is, and then where are my needs and my wants, right? Because you need to spend money on certain things, and then there's just the wants. So we kind of bifurcate that, and then we understand, all right, now do we want to save for retirement right now, or do we need to put that off a couple of years to then cut down this debt, this high interest debt? And then when you put that all together, you have a plan.
Okay.
Right? So we know in 18 months this debt's going to be gone, right? Or 24 months or 4 years. How does that look when you put it into the retirement account that we're not saving for 4 years because we're putting it all towards this?
Right.
And so we look at different ways that we can do that. Okay. And there's all kinds. And then, of course, if you have that much debt, sometimes your credit gets hit. And then we sit down and we help people think through how do we increase our credit score, right? To get back up to then go buy a house. So we help with that too in that thought process.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, I want to get this financial plan together, or I want to update the one that I have, make sure I still have the best plan for where I am today. I am so busy. I've got kids, I run a business, I've got this and this going on. Some people are taking care of multiple generations, maybe their kids and their parents. Life is happening at a big rate for everyone. So how would you solve for that if they're like, I want to do it, but you've just got to give me the easy button?
Yep. So we take, as long as you give us about 3 hours of your time,
okay.
Right? The first meeting is 45 minutes to an hour. It's called a discovery meeting. The second meeting is a planning meeting, meaning we're going to give you all the information that we talk, what is a financial plan. You give us that time, and then if you do want to work with us, we hit the easy button for you. We take that off your plate and we say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. So it takes participation, but it doesn't take all of your time. Right? The hardest part is gathering what you currently have, your current resources, income, expenses, debt, everything you have. That's probably the hardest part. The rest is just sit back and we'll walk you through the process. So that's kind of how you can update, get it updated. At some point, everyone will think to themselves, am I going to be all right for retirement? Everyone will think about retirement. Question is whether you do something about it or you just keep working because you don't know. And we want to make sure that your retirement's updated. Not only that, I'd rather you do it with small kids so that we can look forward into the future. So when those kids are out, grown and out, we can execute, on that plan, right?
Right.
Now and then. So that's kind of, it's time is always on your side the younger you are, but it's never gone if you're old.
You had mentioned at the start of the conversation that depending upon kind of what season of life you're in and how the world is spinning around you and so forth, some concern that you might really be solving for is how am I going to afford my health care as I get older? Mm-hmm. So how is your company able to give guidance to that specific question when you're helping people?
Yeah, it's an increasing expense at a astronomical rate. Healthcare on the open market is getting more and more expensive, and to a certain extent almost unaffordable. And when you go into the long-term care space of, if older people need to go into long-term care, whether it's home health or facility health, we always say that those who need it can't afford it from a long-term care perspective, insurance that is, mm-hmm. and those who can afford it don't need it because they can self-insure. And so what we do with every client is we not only build that cost into their financial plan, saying, hey, you're going to have this much money left over, AKA for the last 3 to 4 years of your life. We build that into the plan. But then even before that, we have actually a Medicare specialist in-house that will sit down with each client to not only walk through if you retire at 60. Well, you have 5 years until you can go on Medicare when prices drop. Right. So you need, open market healthcare. Mm-hmm. So we have them sit down and go through that. But then what do I do? What's A, B, D, G, F, right? What do I need? Which company do I go with? So we have people to help sit down with Medicare as well. And then of course we incorporate those costs into our plan to make sure we can afford those.
Fantastic. We have something in our business at the Price Group, a little mantra we use that's clarity is power. And that sounds like you give people a lot of great clarity. Yep. So that's fantastic. Yeah. With all the different messages coming to all of us right now and all the information around us flying 100 million beats a minute and the different messages in the media and so forth, there are some uncertainty and some unknowns in the various markets, mm-hmm. right? So how do you help counsel someone through with the different unknowns and uncertainties that exist, or at least that are the messaging that is in our brain right now? How do you help people navigate through, in that context, the best decisions in terms of when it comes to saving and investing? Yeah,
that comes down to, emotional, risk tolerance, psychology, right, to a certain extent. It's interesting, this year, on average, clients, if they're down, they're not down to any extent in which they were in 2022, right? The average client, you'll see, not across our book, probably across that invest period, whether you're 70 or you're 30, is down somewhere probably in 2022 between, let's call it 14% and 20%. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty tight, broad range right there because bonds were down 14 and the stock market's down 20. And so most clients are down 14, 15, 16, 18 maybe, depending on risk tolerance. This year, most clients are down 2 and 3%. But the emotion from it comes from what you get fed in. And so what's fed in is this either fear or greed from news and market. Why? Is because right now it's fear. And what people are getting from the fear is this is horrible. And it, again, aside from anything political or anything like that, when you look and you break down the market might be bad, but when you diversify, mm-hmm. a diversified portfolio, especially, one of the portfolios we use, which is a tactical type portfolio that can help move in and out of the market, can really make a difference. And so how we help people is 2 ways. We understand their risk tolerance, because if you're gonna freak out when the market goes down 20 and you're down 5, we need to understand that mm-hmm. up front. But then what we also do is we say, we always tell clients, you've heard the saying, don't put all your eggs in the same basket, in one basket, I guess. Eggs meaning money, baskets are asset classes, whether it's US or foreign or bonds or real estate, or don't put all your eggs in one basket. And we say that's only half the saying. The other half the saying is don't put all your baskets on the same truck. Truck being what strategy do you employ in that portfolio? The average person has probably about 3 or 4 different portfolios, average couple. Right? You might have a taxable account, an IRA, and a Roth. You times that by 2, 4, 5, 6 portfolios. Each one could have a different objective. And so each strategy in that can be different so that whatever comes, 2025, you can mitigate risk. But you can also reap the rewards that we saw from 23 and 24 as well from the market. So that's kind of, it's not only risk tolerance, but it's diversification, not only of asset classes, but of strategies. Most people sit there and they do a buy and hold strategy. I'm going to put money in this one portfolio that does this one thing, and that's it. And we believe it's a little more than that.
Something that we experience at a high level, an increasingly high level in the real estate industry, is our families solving for multi-generational housing needs. And so we do a lot of work with people who are trying to figure out, hey, I need to help my parents. I need to figure out a solution for my parents. Mom needs a solution. Dad needs a solution. And the weighing over what that looks like. And there's a lot, sometimes increasingly more and more so, of taking 2 households and combining it into one multi-generational household. So how can your services help? It's one thing when you're speaking to, a person or 2 spouses or what have you. But when it comes to the strategy that would span more parts of a family tree, how are you able to assist?
Yeah, a couple ways. Again, going back to the broken record of financial planning, what you want to do is not only make sure that kids are okay. Right? We need to make sure the younger generation can not only help mom and dad, but also retire themselves, or then it's just a domino effect of generation after generation. So we want to make sure that they're all right first and foremost, but then you also want to make sure that parents are all right. So then it's a separate financial plan that can also be intertwined with younger generation if that together household happens. How do we make household expenses happen? But then how do we also create a legacy potentially, right? How do we not run out of money by cohabitating, right?
Okay.
And so again, you can look at them both independent of each other and make sure they're both okay in their own right, sustainable as the word I use, in their own right from a monetary standpoint and retirement. But then you can also put those together to say, hey, as a group, as a collaborative, we are okay as well, because we'll take care of this, and we have these assets, or we have this pension, right, which can help weather down markets, and so we can invest a little bit more, and we can solve problems that way.
So in our conversation, I believe that you have done a great job in defining for us what financial planning is, and we've got some clarity on what estate planning is. So could you define for us what the legacy planning is?
Yeah. So legacy planning is a relatively broad topic, because you can leave a legacy to charity, if you like. You can leave a legacy to children, and you can leave a legacy in a few different ways. How we help is, if it's to children, right? Let's say it's to children and charity, right? What asset class or what asset groups, I would say, taxable accounts versus IRAs versus Roth IRAs, do you leave to each one? Right? For example, I'd leave my taxable account to my child. They get what's called a step-up in basis, which is a whole nother conversation. But for taxes, that minimizes their tax. Whereas you can leave an IRA to charity and they don't pay tax on it, whereas your child would. And so it's how do we make sure that we're leaving it not only the way you want, but the most tax efficient manner.
Okay, so that sounds like, I think the analogy you use is not all your eggs on one basket, but getting all your baskets on different trucks.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me you're like matching trucks to pieces of your legacy a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it breaks down to the portfolio sense of strategies, but it also goes broader to the legacy planning and what strategies are we employing to make sure that we're maximizing your wealth, but also doing what we want you to do or what you want to do from a legacy standpoint.
Okay, fantastic. I have one more question that we wanted to ask you before we open it up to the floor, and that is, how do you help people get clarity on even figuring out the timeline of when they can retire or work optionally? How do you get, there's one thing to get clarity on what you're doing with the finances, but how do you help people get clarity on the time?
Yeah, some people come to us and they say, I know I need $1 million to retire. I need a nest egg. And that's kind of this thing that's been in people's head forever, whether it's $1 million, $2 million, whether it's $500,000, whatever your number is. I kind of try to break down that thought process and kind of do away with it. Why? Is because if you think you need $1 million and I think I need $1 million, but you spend 40 grand a year because that's your comfortable living, and I spend $250,000 a year, I'm going to have 4 awesome years of retirement, and you're going to have retirement forever. Like, you're going to have a very sustainable life. And so we need to understand not of what's my nest egg, as opposed to what is my lifestyle. What do I want to spend, or what do I need to spend? Right? And if there is enough there, then we go to the what do I want to spend. Mm-hmm. And so then when you break it down there, we backtrack it to today. Right? My 65-year-old self, I'm just putting numbers out there, 67, 60, 50, whatever it is. And then you backtrack to today and say, what do I need to save to get there? And if your ability to save is, I could save $2,000 a month. But my plan says you only need to save $1,000. Then great, if you want to save $2,000, you're going to accelerate something, right? And there's only really 3 ways to make retirement more sustainable. It's either retire later, and in that case, if you save more, then you retire earlier, right? You can either save more, save less, or spend more, or spend less in retirement. And so again, what we try to do is we try to get you to retirement based on the analysis and the statistics and mathematics, but then we also make sure that retirement's not way up here and your lifestyle currently is down here. Or we don't want your lifestyle to be up here living with the Joneses and your retirement's down here. We want to equalize those out. We want to have a great life now, but we also want to be secure in retirement. And so that's how we say, hey, if you have an ability to save $2,000, we're only asking for 1. If you want to save 2, great. We're going to accelerate things, but you don't have to. You can go live life now.
So when you talk about the spending piece and the saving piece as it pertains to the span of time that you're projecting towards, is there also a third piece you braid in there, which is the investing? Do you think about that separately, the investing, the saving, and the spending?
Yeah, I do a lot of analogies in cars, trucks, analogies.
I love analogies as well, so you're in good company.
So we kind of think of the financial plan as the car, and the investment portfolio as a gasoline. Independently of each other, they don't do much, right? With one without the other. But you put the gas in the car and you get the point A to point B. So one isn't necessarily more important than the other, but what we try to focus on, and that we believe most people or advisors are doing incorrectly, is they're asking you, what do you have to invest? And then here's my portfolio and here's how great it is to invest it. As opposed to turning that on its head and saying, what do you want to accomplish in retirement? How much do you want to spend? Where do you want to travel to, right? What do you want to do with your estate planning? Do you want to leave a legacy? And then also, what about risk management, right? Which we haven't really touched on is, what if something happens to you, right? Do we want to support our family with whether it's life insurance or after retirement, long-term care? And so those are the questions we need to answer first, and then the investment piece, invest and needs to get a hit or return according to your goals.
Okay.
So it's based on that, because of the fact that if your risk is, if your lifestyle is a bit lower, right? You just live below your means naturally. Then maybe you don't have to take as much risk if you don't want to.
Right.
And so therefore you can match that up, and therefore it is a successful and sustainable plan.
That's fantastic. Everyone here this evening gets to leave with a complimentary gift certificate for a one-on-one customized financial plan with you. Can you give us a little, what if somebody decides to cash that in, what really does that mean? Like, what are we looking at?
I've alluded to it a little bit throughout the talk. It's essentially 3 hours of your time or so. The first meeting, and I put some pamphlets on the guidance formula, it's called. It's a process in which you will go through. Everything on the left side of that page, which is the discovery process, the daydreaming process, discovery process, and then the creation process only takes your time. So it's only you guys sitting down and telling me what you want, your dreams, wishes, and wants, and then sharing your resources with us so that we can put together a financial plan. So that first meeting is the daydreaming and the discovery.
Okay.
Right? And then we go back and we create the financial plan, and then we present that financial plan to you. Here's what's going to happen. And I tell clients, it usually is very overwhelming. Why? Because at the end of that, you have a decision to make. Either you have a financial plan right now that will change with life,
right?
But you have a decision to make whether you want us to help you implement that plan or you want to do it on your own. And if you want to do it on your own, we say, that's great. I mean, we promised here it is. And so that's kind of the thought process there it is just your time and a little bit of energy and effort.
Well, that seems of incredibly high value. So thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that with us. What have I not asked Stephen this evening that I should? What questions do we have? Oh yeah, sure thing. What questions have I not asked Stephen this evening that I should? What is on your all's mind that we can pick his brain about right now?
Maybe college planning for your kids?
Yeah. So what we usually do is it's integrated into the plan. But what I tell people, and it's really up to them ultimately, we give them options. College is getting, as you probably know, very expensive. And so we have college analysis that we do, but we have to understand, all right, do we want to overfund it, right? And that's, no one really wants to overfund it because pulling it out is an issue, right? Now they actually, a couple years ago, they changed the law where you can roll it. If it's been in a 529 long enough, you can put it in a Roth IRA, so that's great. But some people aren't going to college nowadays, which is, that can work, right? And so where do we want to put that money? What is it going to be used for? And so whether it's in a taxable account, in a 529, understanding not only just where do you put it, how much? And then we want to integrate that into the financial plan, because I ask clients, I say, would you rather live in your child's basement or them go to college? And that's a true question. That's just up to them. I'm sure some of them, everyone loves their children, but some of them like college. They're going to college, and it's great. We will plan for that. But that's where, again, most people say, I'd rather make sure my retirement is secure first. And so at first, when we first meet, we run the analysis, we don't incorporate it. Why? Because we want to make sure we're focused at retirement first, and then we can look at college if what's left over.
Kind of like
what's the
put
excess.
your mask on yourself first.
That's right.
Is that kind of the philosophy?
I'm going to use that.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's great.
There you go. Yeah. What other knowledge do we want to get from Stephen while we have him here with us this evening? Yes.
Playing late, we jump in late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no late, right? It's just what do you want to plan for?
Yeah, like speeding it up. Like
Yeah.
You don't have no time to wait.
Right.
You jumping in late.
Yeah, a lot of times what we do with some clients is I have kids. I have a bunch of kids and I got to get them through college. I have no extra money. Okay, that's fine. What we do is I call hyper funding, hyper saving. And so I've made a few plans like this where, hey, we're not going to save for the next 10 years. But once the kids are done in college, you have another 10, maybe 15, give or take, years to fund retirement. Now, it's not ideal, right? Because again, time's on your side 25 years before, 10 years before you start saving, but it's still doable, right? Because if you can't do it, then I don't want you to shut down. And so we call it hyper savings. And sometimes in that case, we have two incomes, right? And at that point, we'd say, hey, one income is funding retirement and one income is funding lifestyle. And how can we make that work after kids are in college? And so we run that plan for those people that need, to get a bunch of kids through college. So.
Sounds solid. So if you found the content today that we shared with you insightful and helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can always follow along with us here at The Price Group as we aim to bring very valuable and insightful information to you. After all, we are your #1 real estate resource.